Hey, Mark here. I have a really fun promotion for you in honor of the digital release of Freediver, the excellent documentary. I have a bunch of cool movie swag to give you. If you're interested in entering the promotion, just say, hey, Mark, I would like a chance to win some free movie swag in honor of the digital release of Freediver. Because, why not? It's a cool doc. It's cool free movie swag. Enter. Freediver is new today on digital in this heart-pounding new documentary. World champion freediver Alexei Molchanov embarks on a daring quest to break 5 world records in a single year. On a single breath, he dives into the ocean's crushing depths, where the smallest mistake could mean death. Witness the ultimate battle of endurance in one of the world's most dangerous sports. Buy or rent Freediver on Fandango at home now. Rated PG from Paramount Pictures. Hello and welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man who just finished off a delicious jelly full of pudding. It's Professor Mike Dillon.
Hello, hello.
How was it?
My jelly full of pudding?
Yeah.
Scrumptious.
What a great... So thank you for joining me, Professor Mike. We've talked before on the Aaron and Abe, Out Now with Aaron and Abe podcast. We've done the horror awards for a couple of years now, and we've kept in touch since then. You've been on Deep Blue Sea, the podcast, and then we both love action films, like every type of action film. So you sent me a list. Drive 1997 was on there. I've had the NVD release for a while, so I was like, let's talk about that. I love this movie. I love Drive. I love it. It's just the best. And thank you for recommending it.
Yeah, well, you were so kind to invite me on the pod. First Deep Blue Sea and now this. I really appreciate you kind of keeping me in orbit here. Yeah, you asked me to pitch a few titles, and I sent you like maybe 5 or so. They included Rapid Fire.
Yes.
Street Fighter, it's 90s. But this is the one you picked, and I thought, okay, I like Drive. It'll be fun to revisit this because it's been a good while since I've seen it, and damn, it's so good.
Yes.
It really is one of the great sort of under the radar action films of the 90s.
And listen, I know there's some great action in it, but I just want to give some props to Deliverance Bodine, played by Brittany Murphy. She has the best moment in this film, and we'll talk about the plot later on. But she's this hotel owner, shop owner. It gets blown up. She goes to a diner. She's all about Kadeem Hardison. And this waitress is staring at Kadeem, who plays a guy named Malik. And Brittany Murphy walks by and just puts her hand out and like pushes the lady's head away. And then she just goes back to like her conversation. They just let Brittany Murphy be Brittany Murphy. And I love her performance. That's what Drive is, this film to me. It's, a movie's good. An action movie's good when the supporting cast is just stacked and you remember the supporting cast and you like people like Vic, you like people like Hedgehog. Top to bottom, it has really memorable characters and a lot of quirk. And I feel like those are always my favorite action films, when it's just quirky and fun and it works. And that's what this movie does. But I just got to say, Deliverance is a gem of a character.
Yeah, I have a lot to say about Deliverance as a character, which I'm sure, I'll get the opportunity. But aside from that, I do love Brittany Murphy.
Yeah.
Just as an actor. I teach a cult cinema class at the university, and I routinely show Freeway and Drop Dead Gorgeous.
Oh, great movie.
And I realize, she's not the lead in either of them, but I've developed something that I just simply call Murphy's Law. Not that Murphy's Law, but mine is it's quite simply anything with Brittany Murphy in it is better than if Brittany Murphy was not in it. That's it. Murphy's Law. I really think the director who could have done something really magical with her before she unfortunately passed away was John Waters.
Whoa, yeah.
I've always kind of dreamed about that combo because she has that quality of being just really endearing on screen, but with just a hint of trashy. I think he could have done great stuff with her if he'd added her to his staple of actors or something like that. I don't know.
And thanks for reminding me of Freeway, because I watched that when I was way too young, and just that's a gnarly movie. Reese Witherspoon and Sutherland, and I wasn't ready. So I wasn't ready for it. Like I think when you're 12 and you're like, I'm gonna go watch Under Siege, and you're totally fine because you're like, it was an action film. But when you're 12 and you watch something like Freeway or 13, you're just like, whoa! I was not prepared for the grime of that movie.
Yeah, it's
And
trash.
yeah, yeah,
It's great.
exactly. Yeah.
And I really want to emphasize to your listeners that when I say trash, we mean it with the utmost affection, right? Trash is not a value judgment. It's kind of an aesthetic. It's an emphasis on lurid, excessive subject matter, and it's kind of a mentality in filmmaking. So what I always tell my students is, trash is a sensibility. It's not about whether the movie's good or bad. The exploitation films of the 70s are just, these are trash cinema, and they're terrific a lot of the times. If a movie's genuinely bad, just artistically worthless, it's not trash, it's garbage.
Yeah.
Right? That's the distinction I always like to make. And Freeway is so trashy. It's actually kind of out trashing my ability to show it without having to accompany it with a lot of trigger warnings and sort of conversations about the subject matter that is triggering a little too many people in its sensibilities. So I don't know how much utility I can continue sort of getting from that film without having to accompany it with a lot of disclaimers and a lot of sort of, all right, is this the semester this one's gonna get me in trouble? Drop Dead Gorgeous is still okay. It has a few things that are a bit dated, particularly its very liberal use of the R word, which rubs people the wrong way now, understandably. So
Mhm.
I'm not sort of fighting against that at all, but it does need to be acknowledged. And the students seem to enjoy that film enough to overcome some of those kind of knee-jerk reactions that kids have these days.
Jeez, that movie too. It's and with Freeway though, I just want to say it's like you can
Yeah.
almost smell the couches and cigarette, like the
Nah.
cigarette stained couches when you're watching it. That's how perfectly trashy it is, effectively trashy it is. And Drop Dead Gorgeous, I wasn't ready for either. Like 99 was loaded with like Can't Hardly Wait and all those films. So then when Drop Dead Gorgeous came out, and you're just like, just the swearing, the like murder, the like beer cans are attached to people's hands because they're burnt on, and like Denise Richards is really good in it, and
Mhm.
it's a movie that Amy Adams is in it. It's I guess I just
It's
wasn't
Amy
ready
Adams,
for it.
her first movie.
Oh, it's so good, and we covered that on Movies, Films, and Flicks, and I just loved listening to the commentary and learning more about that movie. And that's one of these things I love about these shows. It's I get to revisit these cool movies that I missed or like I haven't thought about in a long time. And this was like a total Drive was a total blind spot in my movie watching because in the 90s I just watched like my parents weren't cinephiles, my friends weren't cinephiles, I was the only one who loved movies. So it's like I didn't have a cool uncle, or my brother watched movies but he didn't go in too depth, so I didn't have like that neat like blockbuster friend employee who's like, hey man, check this out. So it's always fun going back and learning about these cool cult classics from the 90s. And I went back and watched Steve Wang's other films like Guyver and Guyver Dark Hero, and
Uh-huh.
just
Yeah, we
prepping
should
for
we
this.
should talk about those.
Oh my gosh. And just, like working on a budget. Like they said they shot this in like 7 weeks, 7.5 weeks. They were shooting around the clock. Like Steve was sleeping on set. I guess one time they were looking for Mark Dacascos and he was just sleeping on a mat on the set, but they didn't know that. So they were looking everywhere else while he's just sleeping in the set. But it's so good. And there's so many varied action scenes and all the characters pop. And so I don't know, I just love learning about it. And I think this commentary, I listened to the commentary. It rivals the really good ones from Carpenter and Kurt Russell and Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi. It's like lighthearted and fun and
Oh, who's on
funny.
it?
So it's Kadeem, Mark, Steve, and the what's his name? The stunt coordinator. I have his name right here. Let me
Oh,
pull it up.
Sakamoto.
Yeah, yeah. So he was on there as well. Yeah, Sakamoto, and I get he was like farting during the thing, which is kind of funny. And they're all like, "Man, what are you doing?" But
So do you know when was that recorded?
so it sounds like Brittany. So Brittany Murphy was still alive. She just couldn't make it. It sounds like maybe when they released the
Oh,
DVD years later, because they
so
were talking about Rush Hour in it, but I don't think it was too far into the 2000s.
okay.
And it's
So
just a
she
delight.
passed away like 2008, 2009, I think,
Yeah, this was early
thereabouts.
2000s, and
Okay.
but like it was fun. Like they just were talking about the lack of budget and how no one got sleep. But Kadeem was making fun of all the tables that could absorb bullets the whole time, and Steve just like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
that's a real 90s staple, right?
yeah.
All the tables are so bulletproof. And the doors too, the wooden doors
Yes,
are all bulletproof.
he called
Yeah.
that out as well, and it's I don't know. I think no, I love this movie now. This is a movie
Yeah,
that I legitimately love.
in my case, I I discovered this on video as a rental at my local store, but in my case, so I grew up in Japan, where I like you didn't have an uncle or a connection at the local Blockbuster to slip me stuff that I wouldn't have otherwise known about. But what I did have to my advantage was I grew up in Japan before they implemented a rating system.
Oh,
So even as a kid, like no one would stop me if I just rent whatever I wanted. And so, with the exception of like pornography, they wouldn't think twice about renting anything to me. And so, I would just rent things and watch them on my own without my parents knowing. I probably saw a lot of things that they would have objected to had they known, mainly in action genres. And so I kind of use that as a real advantage in kind of self-educating myself in film. And as long as I could read the subtitles in Japanese, I could get things in foreign languages and non-American things. And so this is just one of the things I came across. Actually, so this I think you'd be interested to know this. And so I just sent you something in the chat, and I'm sorry, you're probably not going to be able to use this, but I thought you might be interested. This is the Japanese poster.
oh, I'll include it in the post on Movies, Films, and Flicks. So if you
Yeah.
want to come look at it, go to the website and you'll see it. That's
So,
amazing.
so this is the Japanese poster. As you can see, it completely downplays the buddy comedy aspect of it, and this was marketed as sort of as you can see, kind of a Terminator type movie. He's
Yeah.
he's got that T1000 sheen to him, and the final boss, the advanced model character, features on the poster because he's a known Japanese actor. He was well known at the time. So you can kind of tell they marketed it very differently. And so I thought I was just getting maybe a cheesy action film. And I was really getting into action films at the time, so I was gobbling things up. Actually, can I elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, of course.
It seems a little early in the conversation to digress, but so being biracial, half Japanese, I was getting into action cinema and I was studying martial arts. And so I was seeking out movies like this. But, Bruce Lee was a little bit ahead of my time. There's Jackie, of course, but the actor around that time who I really fell in love with was Brandon Lee.
Yeah.
I was obsessed with Rapid Fire. I would copy and study and try to recreate his Wing Chun moves in that film. And mind, this is back when you couldn't go frame by frame, right? So I would have to rewind, play, rewind, and just wear out the tape just to study the action design. And I still get a little choked up when I think back to when I first learned that Brandon had died. And later, again, of course, when I first watched The Crow when it eventually came out. And so once that happened, I needed a new biracial action star to look up to. And of course, if you want to go big, there's Keanu Reeves. But I very shortly after discovered Mark Dacascos. And so we're talking Only the Strong, we're talking Crying Freeman. And I was gobbling up everything he was in. And so I've been a fan ever since. So going on 30 years plus now. And I think he's someone with real leading man qualities who
Yeah.
never got the career he probably deserved. But hands down, I do think Drive is his best film. It's a shame that few people know about it, but with that comes the pleasure of being in the position to be able to introduce it to people.
My brother and I, we loved Only the Strong. And he even took capoeira lessons. So he's a big six
Yeah.
foot four Swede doing capoeira lessons just because of Only the Strong. And like we were big into him. And also Brandon Lee. One of my favorite all time movie going experiences. I bought a ticket for White Fang 2 when I was 12 and I snuck into The Crow. And Lee just blew my mind. He
Yeah.
was incredible in that movie. Also, Showdown in Little Tokyo is a lot of fun. And the line
Showdown
he
in Little
says,
Tokyo.
the line he says,
You have
the
the right to be
golf.
dead.
No, it's like you have the largest penis I've ever seen on a man. You're like, oh no, it's insane. But yeah, he was great, and but I love the like he's interesting. Where every time I saw him in a movie, like when Brotherhood of the Wolf came out, I was like, yeah, he's back. Like I was always, and then John Wick 3 when I saw him, I was really happy. He's a guy that I think too. I don't think I was obsessed with, but I always liked him in movies, and I always wanted him in more movies. And I think during the research of Only the Strong, I think that not doing too well, and then Double Dragon not doing too well, kind of right out the bat, right off the bat, kind of hurt him a little bit. If he'd have been in something a little bit better, I think he had all the qualities to lead. But I do remember kind of reading about his early career and a couple because Double Dragon was a big bomb, even though it was pretty fun. Like I do wish that he would have had something kind of to propel him a little bit more in his career. And I think this one could have done it. Did a lot of people watch this in 97? Like, what's the legacy of Drive?
I mean, I only have anecdotal evidence, which is that no one I really know other than hardcore action fans are even aware of this film. And I would say that again, in my life, anecdotally, casual action fans don't even really know Mark Dacascos. When he got cast in Wick 3, when they announced that, I was elated, right?
Yeah.
I thought like this is an actor I really admire who who can do the stunts. He's a legit like wushu champion. I mean, if you go back to Double Dragon, you can tell Scott Wolf is they're cutting around him, and Mark is actually performing things, even though they're brothers, right? You can tell one of them is a genuine athlete. And when they cast him in Wick 3, I thought not only is that great because this is such a rockin' franchise and they added an actor I really love. That's fun for me. That's one more reason to go. But also it shows just how legit the Wick people are
Yeah.
and who they're casting and they know who to reach out to, right? So unfortunately, I thought the character wasn't so well written in Wick 3. He's like a Wick fanboy, John Wick fanboy,
Mhm.
and yeah, I think Wick 3 is the weakest of the four, unfortunately. But yeah, I was bummed for a while when he became the Iron Chef
Yeah.
MC or whatever that job is, which is very theatrical and arguably really just Orientalist and kind of infuriating to not to kind of dump on that franchise at all. I'm sure a lot of hardworking people on that, but just it seemed to me to kind of rub salt in the wound. The wound being called this guy deserves better. He deserves to be a big action star. And I don't know. I also don't want to presume that he wanted that kind of stardom, right? I mean, my understanding is that he lives in Hawaii. He's kind of
Mhm.
removed from it a little bit. So I don't know whether or not he has deliberately made choices to avoid the kind of superstardom, because that's a whole machine that can really grind on people. So I don't know what his perspective is on all this. But because I prefer not to like read up on interviews. I don't follow people on social media, so I don't really have any insight into his personal life and his personal views. I just admire him from afar and
Same.
have been for decades. Yeah.
Well, he pops on screen and he just I think sometimes you look at somebody and you're like, yeah, they look good up there. You're like you're not thinking, why am I watching this guy? Like he always had a great presence, and his physicality helped this movie. I don't know if they could have shot this movie in 7 weeks without him. Like he was doing a lot of
Yeah.
the stunts. He learned everything really quickly. And like to Kadeem's credit, like he had a good time too. Like you could tell that you could just feel in everybody on this movie that they loved being there, which I think there's a certain high to working on indies like this. They had about $4.5 million budgets. I think the director, Steve, I mean, he had been in the industry for a long time. He did creature effects on like Predator, but he was
Mhm.
leading from the top, like sleeping on set. I think all the stuntmen were just working hard. Like this seems like a thrilling but exhausting film to work on because, like,
It's scrappy.
yeah, yeah.
A very scrappy movie.
And I think
Yeah.
everyone knew it was good though. Like it's like, and there's this my favorite scene in this movie. There's a bar fight. I guess we should say the plot. So the plot of this movie is Mark Dacascos is a super soldier named Toby, and he has a biomechanical, like he's super powered. I'm trying to think. I have the word highlighted here. What is he? He has a bio engine in his chest. He wants to escape because they're just killing people. His wife or girlfriend has died, and he's being chased by these mercenaries. He teams up with Kadeem Hardison's Malik, and then they go on an adventure. They come across Deliverance Bodine, and they eventually find themselves at a bar where they have a climatic final fight with another super soldier and some dirt bikes. Is that
So he, I mean, in scientific terms, it's like an implant on his heart that I guess artificially boosts his adrenaline and it makes him harder, faster, stronger, all the rest. And
they can't kill him?
the product in his chest is some kind of prototype of some kind, and he's trying to have it removed. And there's some rival super soldier company based in LA that he's trying to sell his wares to basically free him of this burden. But the people who implanted in him based in Hong Kong are pursuing him to try to get him back. And so there's a team of mercenaries at his tail every step of the way. That's the other. So that accounts for the villains of it.
And there's some professional nods in here, which makes me really happy. And then, like, I just love that the goons that chase him are John Piper Ferguson as Vic
We
Madison.
we
Like,
got to talk about John Piper Ferguson for a second.
he's
Um,
great.
he's so great. I was thinking as I was rewatching, going like, this is if Michael Wincott
Yes,
had
I thought it was him at first.
if Michael Wincott had a baby with Foghorn Leghorn.
At
This we
first, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
It's just yeah, and to reference what you said earlier, he's got the weirdest line in the film. He calls someone a jelly full of pudding. You
Which
might
is
have
the
the title
wrong
of your episode right there.
with the it's the wrong it's a he flubbed the line and they just kept it in. And they're like, whatever, it's funny. He's Southern.
Oh,
So
which
that's
do you know what the original line was?
oh I didn't write it down, but I know he flubbed the line. He was just tired and he just said the line and you're like, whatever. It
Okay, well,
works.
I mean, belly full of pudding makes
Oh
a
yeah.
certain kind of sense. Maybe he just got the one letter wrong.
And like Hedgehog, like Tracy, well, it might be like one
Tracy
of the
Walter.
like these guys, and they take a lot of shots in this movie. I mean, this guy's back should be broken on a couple of the gags, but no, they're just such cheeky villains. I kind of
Yeah, I did want more of the relationship between Madison and Hedgehog.
just sitting in their
Because I
RV.
mean, well, they clearly have history, right?
Yeah,
There's an affection between them. They're really engaging characters when the movie calms down and it's not all about punching and action, right? Like they're really fun to watch. So, I mean, since I did see this originally in Japan, I had always gotten the director's cut, which is the international
oh,
cut. Yeah, I had no idea there was a shorter, and I'll hasten to add, wildly inferior version in America until I think I was in college and I was telling a roommate about how great this movie is. And this was long before streaming services or anything like that. So we rented it, or maybe it was even bought it on video and was watching it going, what the hell is this? Right? It's got so like with Blade Runner, when you're telling people which version to see, I just tell people look for the version with the unicorn because there's so many cuts of that film. Say if you see a unicorn, you've got the right one. And with this film, if you want to make sure you have the right version of Drive, look for the Einstein frog. If the frog is in there, you've got the superior edit. I don't think there's any major changes in the action scenes between versions, but the one major difference is that Toby has a wife in the longer version. I think they cut that backstory completely from the sort of original American version, which sucks. It's pretty crucial in establishing his motivations, right? He's not just sort of trekking to LA to get paid. He actually has deep emotional stakes, which they completely cut out. So he's just this mercenary in the original American, the shorter version.
and we never see Hedgehog getting killed in the shorter version. Like, so you never see him getting shot.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I disavow that version completely, so I'm not
yeah.
familiar with all the smaller cuts, right? But the bigger ones, the story beats.
The
Oh
MVD
yeah.
Blu-ray came with both cuts, and so I watched the extended one with the commentary, and then I kind of blasted through the direct, to like listen to the techno music and see what was cut out of the theatrical one. But yeah, you're right. The best version is the director's cut. Like it flows, and it's almost 2 hours, but it's fine. Like I think a good movie is exactly as long as it needs to be, and I think even at 2 hours, this doesn't drag at all. Like it's
No, I don't. It never feels long, I think.
yeah. I want more
Yeah.
I want more Deliverance. No, I don't know if I want more Deliverance. I think she's perfect. Like she enters the film like a tornado and just leaves like one as well. And there's no more with her in there. But
Yeah,
it's
I don't think it would make sense to
yeah.
have her tag along narratively, and what are you gonna do with her? I actually think I don't know that Steve Wang knows how to direct her. I don't know
Yeah.
how it just seems to me he doesn't know how to direct that performance. If you watch her character, she's so no shade on Brittany Murphy, she's great, but there are too many asides in which she's mugging or goofing off in ways that fit her character and the Brittany Murphy persona generally, but they don't, to me anyway, feel really organic to what's happening, and they keep cutting away to her, right? And I feel like if I was on set, you'd see him just going, "Hey, Brittany, just improvise a bit, do something funny," without giving her any specific notes or directions. And it works because she's such a fun performer to watch on screen. In fact, all the more power to her because she if that theory is correct, she's making such an underwritten and weird character so memorable. So I'm with you. She arguably steals the movie, but the stuff they have her do doesn't strike me as sort of very explicit direction because I don't think she's scripted this way.
I
Right.
think
It's too specific to Brittany Murphy's quirks for, like who I do feel like if Drive had been made 5 or 7 years earlier, that character would have been played by Sherilyn Fenn.
who's that?
Sherilyn Fenn is Audrey from Twin Peaks. And
I never
she's in
watched
like
Twin Peaks.
no,
No.
she's in
Oh,
Of
the
Mice and
Wraith.
Men and
Oh,
Wild
okay.
at Heart and things like that. So she has a similar look, but not
Got
the
it.
similar quirk. She's more sort of sultry, sexy than Brittany Murphy is more quirky and loopy.
that's what they wanted, was like a kind of a sexy character like her. Now that I'm going through her pictures here on Google, but I think you're right about the directing, because this movie was only 7 weeks and every single scene had budgetary issues. Like the studio was always kind of like, they called them, it was LBB, but they called them the low budget bastards. And so I think
Okay.
they were getting fought at every step of the way. So when it comes to performances, I know Kadeem was improvising almost everything. Like he never really gave the same thing twice. I think Mark Dacascos probably stuck to the script because he didn't really have time to do all that. You kind of had to worry about the blocking and the fighting. And but yeah, I think when it comes to directing this thing, I think Steve was just trying to get it done. Like I don't think he was too like, I don't think he could have spent too much time on her character. So I think it was like, okay, Brittany, just go. Like just let it rip. And I guess she improvised a decent amount with Kadeem. Kadeem was feeding her lines. So yeah, I think you're right. I don't think he really directed her or did that, because I don't know if he had time or that's what his mind was
Yeah.
on, or maybe he was just really tired. Like he was
Well,
just
the deliverance sequence, especially when they go into the garage section of this hotel with apparently no staff members and no other guests, because there's no consideration of the collateral damage when they literally blow the whole establishment up. But there's this sequence, we get all of this weird fetishism around classic cars,
yeah.
which just kind of comes out of nowhere, and there's all this sort of really punchy dialogue that Deliverance has, just describing the engines and the horsepower of these cars, and it strikes me as really out of place. Yeah, so I have a theory about that, which is, if I had to hazard a guess, it's that, considering the movie is clearly aimed at teenage boys, that's the target demo for this sort of thing. She's clearly being written as a manic pixie dream girl
Mm-hmm.
in a way, right? So she's quirky and charismatic and
Readily available.
exciting and maybe a little bit dangerous to be around, but also completely available, right? That's your typical manic pixie dream girl. And in this case, I think what the writer was going for is that she's girly and cute, yeah, but she's also able to speak fluently about boy subjects like cars.
Ah, yeah,
Right.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's the trope that they're leaning on, but it's not very well integrated, because you have this very strange scene in which this sort of very beautiful classic car, the yellow car, is just sitting there for no reason. It has no purpose in the plot other than to get shot up later. So it did make me think, well, did the location you guys rented for this shoot just happen to have that car there, and they're like, you know what, let's incorporate this. This is great, which of course can't be the case because they utterly destroy it. And there's action sequences built around it. So that's not something they could have just improvised, I feel anyway. And so, yeah, the whole Brittany Murphy scene sequence feels at once kind of very studied and scripted, but at the other end, exactly like you say, because they were so rushed and they had to just kind of shoot and go, that the Brittany Murphy character, who is not an action character, is nonetheless kind of being subject to the same kind of speed. It's like, no, just improvise, just move along with it. And here's a few lines you got to get right, and here's a few lines that we don't really care about. And that kind of the mess that creates is at once very charming with the movie because it has that scrappy quality we talked about, but at the other end, when you have a character that needs to make a sort of internal sense, that's where it starts to suffer. Maybe a little bit.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think with another actress, I don't, and if she was acting exactly like you said, like kind of a beautiful, readily available tomboy who loves cars, it wouldn't have worked as well. But somehow they let this hurricane come on their set, and she
Yeah.
just made it all the better. And I was thinking about while you're talking. I said this movie was as long as it needed to be. Like it's not a tight film, and like they go home and you meet Sanaa Lathan, which is amazing. Like just seeing
Mhm.
her in the '90s, and like then there's she has a cheeseburger boyfriend who he doesn't like, and there's stops and
It's such a good insult.
yeah, he's just a
Cheeseburger.
cheeseburger. That was another improv, which I
Yeah.
love. And like it's not a tight film, but I think because it's so quirky, it works. I think because it has this sort of oddball charm to it. And like I think Kadeem was on fire. I think he felt comfortable. I think Brittany felt comfortable, and they were in such a rush that they like normally I think if you put this all into a film, it's not gonna be great. But I think somehow all the rushed elements, all the quirk somehow made a pretty great action stew for this movie. So even when we're at this pointless hotel scene with these cars, just watching Brittany Murphy and just watching, it's almost fun watching Kadeem react to her because he was just like on set. She would say things, and I was like, what is happening? So just watching them together, I think, is what gives it the personality. So
Yeah.
this movie could have gone wrong on many levels, but I think because the actors are so endearing and they just were allowed to be and they felt comfortable, it works. But it wouldn't work if they
Yeah.
did it again on something else with another group of people.
Another aspect, because I always watch the international version. Like I said, I didn't even know there was a shorter version, which cuts out a lot of the quieter moments because the producer's notes were like, no, 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 just get to the action, get to the action. And so the quirk that Brittany Murphy brings, because she's such a significant character, they couldn't cut her out without losing a giant midsection of the film. But what they do cut out are other moments like Hedgehog and Madison just sitting in their RV watching Einstein Frog and things like that. And so, as quirky as the Brittany Murphy character, like the quirk that she introduces into this midsection of the film, it doesn't seem so alien to me having grown up with the extended version because the extended version already has quirk peppered through it. And so if you're watching the sort of American original cut, you're not getting all the little quirky beats that are just sort of what part of Steve Wang's signature style. And then you're suddenly getting this Brittany Murphy character bringing all her weirdness. And so that's going to stick out more and feel a little bit more abrupt and alien to to what's essentially an action film.
That's a
So
great
it's just
point.
another argument for why, there's really only one version you should be watching. If and I would rather have friends not watch this at all than only watch the American edit, the shorter version.
I
Although, yeah, it when you say, okay, so if there was improv going on in your research, did you come across at all? Did she improvise the line, "I know I rock your uvula"?
so I don't know about that one, but like most like what the chocolate boy wonder, like he fed her that. Like there's a few
Oh,
lines that
yeah, well, there's a really weird racial element in the film. Obviously, all
yeah,
of
with
the
the whip.
interactions,
Yeah.
well, with all the interactions with Madison, the bad guy, and Malik have an uncomfortable undercurrent of racism, which, like you say, culminates in him literally whipping Malik and calling him boy, right? But it's also in the Brittany Murphy scenes, like so she calls him Chocolate Boy Wonder,
He
and
fed her
so
that.
he fed her. Well, I
Yeah.
certainly hope so,
Yeah.
right? If she'd come up with that on the spot, then that's obviously a different dynamic. But yeah, the rock your uvula, that's that. What in the hell does that even mean? Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't in the script. Listen, I don't know if that's true. Like I can't say this with 100% certainty, but that came up with on the day. Like I don't think a writer wrote that. Like I think you lean into Britney. Like I guess Steve did that too. He like once he saw what she was bringing, he's like, all right, like she's doing it. So that I think that's definitely an improv. I can't say for certainty, so I can't say definitely, but I would put my money on somewhere that line came out and she said it because
It's such a weird line. It does, I mean, it does make me a little less comfortable now than when I first saw it, given that, I think we're a little bit more enlightened about the Manic Pixie Dream Girl trope. It's fun and it's quirky, it's entertaining, and again, it's nothing against the performer. Brittany Murphy's great. But, the way this is sort of structured and the way the Manic Pixie Dream Girl trope just kind of exists in entertainment is that the film is telling us that so she a teenager?
I think 18. Well, she's on her own and she's
She's on her
running the
own
place.
and her parents are out, so she's still kind of living at home and all the rest, right? So,
18,
what the movie's
19.
telling us, okay, well, what the movie's telling us is that she's this young, hot sex pot, but what the movie's also really doing is coding what's a likely personality disorder as accessible for casual sex, which I think is kind of gross.
Yeah,
That is kind of the problem you get with the Manic Pixie Dream Girl. All the criticism about that trope is that it's clearly concocted by men. Um,
absolutely.
uh, to Malik's credit, he behaves like a complete gentleman,
Hmm.
even when she's practically throwing herself at him. And I mean, he might be like, "No, I have a wife who I still love despite the rough patch I'm in," or even if he's like, "Nah, I really want to, but I know better than to hook up with crazy." Like either way, I think he deserves credit for recognizing her for what she is ultimately, right? Which is an immature girl with too much freedom on her hands. So if I were to like real world the Deliverance character a little bit, then this is a character who only exists in movies written by men, not something that reflects any kind of logical behavior by people in the world we live in. And so, I think so much conversation around gender dynamics have changed in the last, certainly since this movie's come out. And I feel like that's where I can see myself sort of objecting to some of that characterization, even though the performance is just goofy and fun and yeah, quirky is the word we've been landing on, but that's the one I think.
I think you're absolutely right. And I know I said that she was one of the best characters, and she absolutely is a manic, readily available dream girl. But I think it's just like I guess sometimes I think that I guess just the way Steve, because I know Steve Wang didn't write this, and so they kind of just let her go on set and have, I guess, since you feel the freedom of it and watch her have fun with it and kind of make her own world. But yeah, something's definitely wrong with this character. But I guess I'm just in love with they let her be. Like it's not, I feel like it maybe like Elizabethtown or Garden State, the characters are treated very seriously and like very like just kind of fodder for the leads to make their lives better. I guess she doesn't really, she's just kind of someone they meet along the way, and she's a
True,
maniac.
yeah.
And
Yeah, she's not
so
there to reinforce like why life is joyous for otherwise morose characters, for sure. Right.
like,
I guess what I guess I'm trying to go for is she's absolutely a joy to watch on screen, but
mhm.
could I ever hang out with Deliverance in real life? Absolutely not.
No.
Like, no, not my speed.
She only works in regards to this world because this is a quirky world they've created. It's like I think every like the humor too. Like there's a scene where going down a zip line, and he lets the zip line go, and he gives Mark Dacascos a bucket. Like it's like
What
a
do you need the
loony.
bucket for?
Yeah.
Is a great line.
And I think what this does is I think within the movie she works. If this is like a Cameron Crowe film, you're hating your life. But I think since everything is so heightened and everything's so stylized, and even the villains are kind of weirdos, and in a very smooth riding RV, by the way, even because they just didn't have money to do anything else. But yeah, I guess she works because of that. But no, you're right. If this could have, if they'd have taken this movie more seriously, if this would have been more like if a lesser director who didn't have such a like an oddball sensibility was making this.
Or yeah, or if like Rosanna Arquette was playing that character. I'm just thinking of her character in like Nowhere to Run or something like that. But if it had been, yeah, someone a more serious character or a woman who is trying to run this rundown motel and she's in financial trouble and
Has a
she's got a
Culkin for a
kid.
kid.
Yeah. But that's not this movie. You're right. I mean,
Yeah.
I think I wondered the extent to which this movie may have been mismarketed as well, because we were talking about this movie really flies under a lot of radars, and obviously it was eclipsed a year later by Rush Hour, right? And then The Matrix a year after that. Not to draw direct comparisons, but I think The Zone kind of got flooded with similar enough movies that this one just kind of kept getting buried. And as a result, I think that's where this movie kind of it doesn't get the credit it deserves for a lot of like really unique juggling act that it's doing, right? Because I mean, when we were talking about Brittany Murphy, we're really talking about the comedy of the movie, right? There's that moment when there's an explosion and he catches her in her arms and she just looks
Yes.
at him and she looks at him and goes, "Whoa." It's like, yeah, this is why we love Brittany Murphy. She's just so endearing and cute, but also just weird.
Oh no, like there's a scene in the bar where Mark Dacascos jumps over the bar and there's a sound effect. It's like really silly. But do you think it got lost in the shuffle because it's a super soldier movie, so there was Universal Soldier, there's movies like that, and then also I think at the time, this is just what I remember as a 12-year-old in Florida when without internet, when Quentin Tarantino rose to power, I remember him talking about Jackie Chan and like martial arts cinema. And then Rumble in the Bronx hit theaters in the United States when I was 13. And that introduced me to an entire new world of cinema. And then Jet Li came over. So like it's obvious why the film was made. I think you have the super soldiers, you have the new like uh martial arts influx. And then it just I think, do you think it was kind of, I think you're right. I think there was just the market was flooded with those types of films at the time. And then this one didn't really have enough budget to kind of compete with the big boys. And then it got cut down to its 90-minute film and it kind of forgotten.
Yeah, I don't everything I say is going to be speculative,
Yeah, yeah.
but I mean, you're right. There was a market for this. It's presumably the reason this movie got greenlit and financed to begin with, right? Because they recognized that sort of Chow Yun Fat, Jet Li, Jackie, like this mode of sort of Asian action film is in right now. And yeah, maybe for budgetary reasons, it just didn't quite get the splash. I don't know how well it was treated by its distributor. Maybe they had a really good thing going, and they botched it by insisting on cuts or shooting, not giving it a theatrical run. I mean, I don't really know the ins and outs of what journey this movie has had, other than to know that the producers imposed this inferior cut on the filmmakers. But yeah, it ties back to what we were saying about Mark Dacascos. So he has leading man qualities, right? He's a great performer, right? I mean, is he the best actor in the world? No, but does he need to be? No. He's super charming. He's handsome. He's obviously an athlete. He really should have had at least a run of really high profile action films the way Tony Jaa did before he kind of flamed out in his own way. And a thought experiment I like to do, not to sort of cluster all of these ethnically ambiguous action stars together, but I do wonder, if Brandon Lee hadn't passed away and if Keanu Reeves hadn't blown up the way he did, are there alternate universes in which Mark Dacascos, Keanu Reeves, and Brandon Lee would have had interchangeable careers, right? I mean, is there a universe in which Mark Dacascos is in The Matrix, or Brandon Lee is in Drive if he had lived? Because they have similar skill sets, they have similar looks. I guess the one thing that doesn't work with The Matrix is when you have, if you have a Brandon Lee playing Neo in The Matrix, I think it works for a number of reasons. But when he has that iconic line, "I know Kung Fu," the whole joy of that is watching an actor who you don't associate with martial arts putting in all the work and doing, like, wow, that's really Keanu Reeves doing the wire fu. If Brandon Lee turns to the camera and says, "I know Kung Fu," we'd just be like, yeah, we know.
Yeah.
So that robs the audience of a little bit of the surprise that The Matrix delivered back in '99. But yeah, I do wonder how much these actors would have crisscrossed if there hadn't been this void left by Brandon Lee. So you're right. The whole '90s action era suit, I think, left a lot of interesting things. And like any era, some of the things float to the surface and become phenomenons, and others just kind of slide under the radar. And this, for one reason or another, just kind of didn't really click with people. And I suspect it has more to do with how the thing was marketed and how much eyes they were able to get on it. Because if you watch the film and if you care about action design, it's so good, and that's why it has a cult following, right? But I think it probably would have just performed better if more people had seen it, and if movies like Rush Hour hadn't come out and stolen all the spotlight just a short while later.
And also too, like 95 kicked off with like Michael Bay was kind of getting big around then with Bad Boys, and then The Rock, and then like John Woo with like Face Off, and it was much more of a muscular action type film, where Drive, the fights are incredible, and they're flowing and they're beautiful and they're fast paced. I think at the time, like Air Force One, like it was very, like, for lack of a better term, muscular. Like they weren't like
They're going
flowing
big.
bodies. There was like fist fights, there was boat fights, there was this. And so, I think those are the movies that were making a lot of the money around the time when this came out.
Yeah, and
So
a lot of these, I mean, Air Force One, Face Off, these are not in those categories, but you're coming off of an era or a generation of action films which are structured around these large men, right? So Schwarzenegger, Stallone, Dolph Lundgren, Seagal is a big guy, and so Van Damme is the muscles from Brussels, right? So you have all these sort of you're at the cusp of a generational shift in which movies, and you do have exceptions, like Bruce Willis is kind of a dad bod in a lot of ways, right?
yeah.
Action movies are they're big and they're muscular, like you say, because they're structured around sort of big personas and muscular star power. And then you're transitioning from those kind of impossible to obtain bodies to the kind of Keanu Reeves, Neo, handsome and athletic, but also kind of nerdy. Someone who's as good with a gun as he is with a keyboard, which is not the Schwarzenegger model. And so, you can credit that to kind of shifting values in a world that's increasingly becoming globalized, and your ability to hack information is the real currency, not your ability to throw a punch. I think the world is changing in that direction, and that's being reflected in what we look for in star power. And so I feel like movies like Drive are sort of kind of caught in they're slipping through the cracks of that major shift in action films. And obviously you still get your Jason Statham's and your The Rock and people like that, the sort of big beefy action stars. But the Matrix is not only signaling kind of a new visual language, with its kung fu and inflected sort of cyber tech noir aesthetic, but it's also introducing kind of the kind of heroes that emerge from our current landscape, which it doesn't have to do with like brawn, it has to do with smarts, and it has to do with access and agility and things like that. So that kind of more graceful action, as opposed to make the explosions bigger and bigger, I think is taking root at this point, but isn't quite the ground quite isn't quite fertile enough for drive when it comes out. I feel like, I mean, when you talk about the action design, like you've said, the sound design is terrific. It's a little overblown, but you feel the impact of the
Yeah,
punches and
yeah.
the swooshing and the whipping when he pulls out a gun and it makes that like whoosh sound, as if it makes that sound when it's coming through the air. It doesn't make any sense. But when I have stunt performers come to my classroom, which is something I do once or twice a year when I teach classes on action design, the thing I always like to emphasize is if you are a fight choreographer, it really helps if you think like an editor, right? It's
Yeah.
absolutely crucial to know how one shot leads to another, and not, as was traditional in Hollywood before The Matrix, at least, which is to shoot your action scene in a master and then get your coverage of this close up or that close up and then stitch everything together later in the editing. The Hong Kong model is to film what you're going to film and then change your camera angle to shoot whatever's going to come next. You kind of like edit along the way. You're thinking like how's the editor going to stitch this together to make the action as smooth and coherent as possible. And so, we're spending a lot of time discussing the action scenes naturally. And I think absolute credit where credit is due to the actors and the stunt team. But it's also important to note, if we're praising how smooth the action is, to acknowledge the credited editor, who Ivan something or other. I should look this up actually.
And also I do like while you're looking that up, I do love the different. There's a great theme to all them. So you have the boat fight with that excellent jump scene that Dacascos does. Then you have the bar fight where he meets Kadeem Hardison, and you have the super
Yep.
punches introduced, and then you have the quarry fight, which you have some really great gags in there, like just the bucket
Yeah.
gag and some really great gags, and then you cut to the hotel fight, which we were just at a quarry. Now we're at a close quartered hotel fight where tasers are trying to take out a guy with an electric heart, an upgraded heart, and you
Yeah.
get Kadeem Hardison in a gunfight, and then you move to Apollo the bar Apollo 14. You have the dirt bikes, totally brand new element,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have the super boss, and you have the two fights. So you have Kadeem versus I gotta bring up his name, Vic or Malik versus Vic, and then you have Toby versus the advanced model. So they all have like all the action scenes are so unique enough that they never blend in together. So
Yeah.
like they're really well constructed.
Well, there's a fun conceit in the film, which is that because Toby has that valuable piece of hardware in his body, they can't shoot him because they need him alive, which is a great excuse for staging scenes that feature a lot of gun violence. Because it's odd that in a world in which people do carry guns, if they just like set them aside to like, let's fight mano a mano, like that who would do that in real life? But so you do get a lot of gun violence, but then it alternates to hand fighting pretty fluidly because they do need to disarm at one point, right? So the editor is Ivan Ladazinski. I'm not sure what his other credits are. There's a couple of very, very specific shots that I think they maybe failed to get coverage for because the edit is a little clunky at specific moments. You probably caught a couple of weird cuts as well, but on the whole, the editing is really superb. And I would note superb for both the fight scenes and for the comedy. The
Yeah.
comedy really works as well. Maybe some of the jokes like don't quite land, but in terms of the comic timing of everything, it's very nicely constructed. And like you say, it's right. You're right, every major action set piece is kind of self-contained in ways that never feel repetitive. They're kind of their own unique little scene. You know, I don't know how I might rank them in terms of favorites, but they all do different things. They're making different use of their environments that they're filming in,
Mm-hmm.
which is a very Hong Kong action staple. They're bringing that over, and like you say, the quarry or refinery or whatever that location is, which seems like a real location. That's the one with the sort of the Tony Curtis, the Defiant ones, Tony
Yeah, the
Curtis and
handcuffed. Yeah.
Sidney Poitier. Yeah, they're handcuffed together. That's the scene that has the movie's best integration of action with physical comedy. I think, which is missing from some of the other ones. They're fun and funny, but this one is actually really comedic in a lot of ways, and it works. It's so well, just it's well planned out. All the more impressive, I think, given that we know they had limited time. I'm sure they're recycling stunt performers, right? That's why they're in masks half the time.
Exactly. Yeah. Same
And
guys over and
also,
over.
exactly. And so, given that this is a real location, which means that nothing is sort of padded and they're on like actual metal grates and where they're hiding the padding for the stunt performances in their clothing, not on the actual location, right? But given those logistical difficulties to come up with and execute really quickly, given limited time, limited budget, this sort of very inventive comedy. It's like, yeah, we're chained together at the wrist. And so what is that going to mean in terms of impeding Mark's movements, Toby's movements? And Kadeem is sort of, I'm not here to fight, but I'm here to, I can't duck and weave and run away either because I'm chained to this guy. It's fun. It's so much
Hmm.
fun.
When
And yeah, and to
Dacascos
hear you
jumps,
talk about yeah, when to hear you talk about how it seems like they're really enjoying themselves, and on the commentary you can tell they're just like broing out and goofing off like that. That adds an element of just like, yeah, you can really tell you guys had fun. I'm sure this was really stressful and hard work, and you guys were just under the gun the whole time, but the results just it's not just that the action scenes are, well choreographed or professionally executed. They're fun. There's an exuberance to this that just makes the experience of watching the film simultaneously just impressive for people like us who have an eye for action scenes, but also just brings out kind of the child in me a little bit, right? I just it's eye popping and fun.
and it features a couple of the best gags when Dacascos jumps to kick the villain. Kadeem doesn't move, and so Dacascos just misses and falls on the ground. There's a couple of gags where
Mm. Well, he falls on his back, but then he kind
looks
of
at
gives him this look of like, what are you doing, man?
him, and like Vic does a couple. I know it's a stunt man, but Vic does some huge flips. John Piper Ferguson lands on his back. Like, I have a bad back. It made my back hurt, and just like
Oh, on
the
the steel pipe. Yeah.
yeah. Oh my gosh, like that. I was like, I'm dead. But just the fun headbutts, the way that they switched around, the way that they moved, the bucket. Yeah, it's a very inventive and fun. It was originally twice as long, but they had to cut it because they didn't have enough time and money
Sure.
to shoot it. But yeah, and I think this is going to sound really obvious, but the more I research small budgeted films that make a dent, like the only way that these work is, like the cinematographer is Michael G. Wojciechowski. He did Guyver Dark Hero. Sakamoto
Yeah.
did Guyver Dark Hero. Uh, Mark Dacascos believed in this movie, and he did most of the stunts. So you have like, even some of the villains in this were in the Guyver movies, and a lot of the stunt team had worked with the director before, and so like had worked with Steve Wang before, and I think that's the only way this movie works is you have to have this crew who's like working around the clock, and they have a familiarity with each other because there's a lot of coverage to these fight scenes. uh like they had to go through a lot in these days, but it seemed like everyone was just knew each other. There was a shorthand on set. Dacascos picked things up really easily, which allowed them to move fast, and it just works. It's just fun watching that. Like, you just know that everyone, like, this movie wouldn't have been as good if just people didn't believe in it, and which is obvious to say. Like, I'm not changing the world, but the more I learn about it, the more I learn that everyone cared, and you can feel that on screen. And I think that's
Yeah.
why it's so memorable and fun and quirky. And yeah, the more I learn about this movie, the more I like it too. But I dig
Yeah, I
it.
mean the fight choreographer, the main stunt coordinator Koichi Sakamoto, he comes out of like a lot of Power Rangers type
Yeah,
TV shows in Japan.
hundreds of them, thousands of them.
Yeah, well, so it means he's someone who knows how to work fast because
Yeah.
TV has these sort of really grueling schedules, and a lot of those they're aimed at. So I grew up watching a lot of that stuff, not in the '90s. By that point, I was in my teens, but in the '80s certainly. And they're aimed at kids who are less discerning about quality and budget and things like that. But give it so they know how to stretch a dollar and know how to work really fast. And so I think that's an important skill set as well to kind of know when you've got the shot, know what needs to come next. Let's move. Hey, there's a ladder there. Here's how we can use it. We didn't, we're in a location, we're in a quarry with this giant metal structure. What can we do with it really quickly on the fly? And let's just shoot and
Hmm.
trust that it'll work out later. Yeah, that takes a lot of skill and sort of know-how. that I think is on full display, right? And it's a movie that rises in your estimation the more you learn how few resources they had, basically, because it looks like, like it could have an A-level budget.
And that's why I know this is really random, but if I ever had to make a Hallmark Christmas movie, I would just hire soap actors because they can knock out so much like you film those things in 7 days. You
Yeah,
just
yeah.
get a soap actor and they can just memorize pages of dialogue and you knock your movie out in 7 days. So you're right. You bring in people from TV. They're used to just churning out. Like back then, you would have 24 episodes of a show. So they just come in, film, move fast, and yeah, just not sleep much. I would have liked, I worked on a lot. I worked on like 150 sets throughout my days, and I wouldn't mind working on this. Like you're done in 2 months. You're probably not sleeping much, but no one else is sleeping. Like I think when you make a movie and no one's sleeping on it, and the director's not sleeping, and then the star's sleeping on set, that's when you believe in it. So it all comes from like the top down, I guess, and that's another reason
Yeah,
why I admire it.
yeah, I mean, there's a sort of an appeal, right? There's something romantic about being involved on a small, kind of rebellious production
Yeah.
that you're making it work. You don't have like a traditional studio head who's telling you what to do, and you're just kind of out there making your own movie outside of the system, man. I get that completely. My only concern would be, because this is actually a really big deal for me, and I emphasize this a lot in my
Safety
teaching,
or
is safety, right?
yeah,
If as
yeah.
long as it's like you guys are moving really fast and you're gunning it, I get it. But as long as you're not playing fast and loose with safety because you're doing some really gnarly things.
Well,
So
look at The
that'd be
Crow,
my one
right?
concern.
Like I read the oral
Yeah,
history about The Crow and how that bullet ended up in the gun and the guy who was doing that. Like you're
yeah.
right. I think
Or more recently, Rust,
yeah,
you
Russ,
know?
yeah. And like, when that happened, I didn't know what happened, but once I read more about no one sleeping and they had to drive like an hour and a half each way and the lack of sleep and like the long hours, I get it. So I was romanticizing that, but I guess sometimes I guess I was on enough sets where the directors just didn't lead, and you could see the kind of crew not loving it. Like they didn't, I don't know, they just didn't like lead by example. And so I guess the more I learn about this and learn about it, I feel like that's why you got this movie is because I think everyone was on the top of their game,
Yeah.
working fast, and I guess I just admire that more. But you're right, like safety does is a major issue. But
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know this for a fact because, I wasn't there and I haven't seen any sort of scene by scene breakdowns to really illuminate how they film some of the stunt work, but the available interviews and things don't really get into this kind of specificity. But one thing that I kind of feel like might be evidence that they were, not taking shortcuts with regard to safety is that it's a bit strange to see Mark Dacascos perform legitimate stunts. Like there's one where he leaps off the balcony of the hotel and does this flip in the air, and it's clearly him, right? There's
mhm.
no cutaways or anything. And so you see Mark Dacascos performing some legitimate stunts, but then if you watch the action scenes carefully, he's being replaced very frequently with stunt doubles for seemingly smaller gags and smaller actions, which there's no reason Mark Dacascos couldn't have performed this little punch or that little kick. And yet they're interspersing stunt doubles. It's more noticeable than in some points than others, but the fact that they're clearly replacing Mark often enough makes me think that they were really kind of judicious about when our performers are going to do this and when they're not going to do this. It doesn't seem quite as haphazard to me when you see the kind of very careful integration and cutting around stunt performers and making it really clear, at least to the naked eye, that it's fluidly Mark from one cut to the next. And so I don't know. That's completely speculative, but it does make me think that okay, well, you guys you had to work fast, but you had a plan, and you kind of you didn't just sort of stitch it together in the editing and thank God it worked out. It's like no, you guys really kind of planned this shot by shot because otherwise it wouldn't kind of play out the way it appears to on screen. So maybe that's to its credit a little bit
Yeah.
unclear to me, but it does indicate at least superficially that everything was just sort of above board.
I mean, they did have two units running. They had a big second unit. So maybe they were just filming scenes, practicing like on the day, rehearsing everything, and then catching shots when they could without Mark, bringing Mark in to catch shots with him. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
no, yeah.
It makes me a little nervous whenever you have a film and say, "Oh, we're adopting the Hong Kong style of filmmaking." It's like, okay, yeah, great. That implies a couple things that brings with it a certain way of filming action in which you're not basing your fight scenes on getting coverage and stitching it together later in the editing bay. You're kind of constructing the scene as you go, right? You film a fight scene and then you cut and then you move the camera to where the next shot is going to pick up and then you resume cutting so everything feels like it's building on top of each other, as opposed to let's film all the jigsaw pieces which we will then assemble together and hope it all comes together coherently. You're crafting it as you go, and you're also, it's like, okay, where are we shooting? Oh, this is our environment. Okay, let's see what we can do with it, as opposed to constructing a set and everything planned up front. And so that's what makes Hong Kong action traditionally, so from the 80s Jackie Chan era, so fun and dynamic and alive and spontaneous. But with that also comes the tendency for Hong Kong films to just play really fast and loose with safety. There's structural reasons behind that. My understanding is that the stunt performers in Hong Kong are not part of a union the way they are here.
Okay.
Yeah, my understanding, and I hope I'm not wrong, or hope I'm not that this information isn't outdated now, but my understanding is that if you're a stunt performer in America, you're in SAG, you may get, so let's say you're doubling for Keanu on a Wick film. You get all dressed up, you put on the makeup, you put on the suit. But if Keanu really wants to do the scene and he thinks he can pull it off, then you just sort of stand off to the side and you're there if he needs you. But otherwise, you could spend the entire day not making it on screen because Keanu pulls it off. You still get paid your per diem, right? Per union rules. In Hong Kong, the rule is you don't get paid unless you make it on screen.
Oh
Right.
wow.
So you can have people just sitting around all day hoping to like be one of the bad guys who has to take a rush at Jackie, but you never make it on screen. And then you go home without getting paid. And so the problem is that I think that creates two issues that I think are a real problem. One is that you're viewing your fellow stunt performers as the competition as opposed to collaborators, because you want to get your moment on screen so you can get paid. And the second thing is that it incentivizes people to volunteer for increasingly dangerous things so that you get that paycheck.
So you get paid.
Yeah, and so that's kind of that's not great. I don't love it. And so when people say, "Yeah, we're going to shoot it like a Hong Kong film," like, "Oh, what do you mean by that? Are you going to adopt a certain style and incorporate it into your otherwise very sort of OSHA approved, very, very safe, carefully constructed action scene, or are you just going to like do fast and loose?" And it's like, "Hey, can you jump off that thing?" It's like, "I could, but should I?" It's like, "Ah, try it, see what happens. You guys ready? All right, well, don't mess it up. Go.
Yeah,
One, two, three,
yeah.
break. 1, 2, 3, break." Yeah, I don't. Yeah, my hope is that that's not how this movie was constructed, because it looks like it could have been, and I'm grasping. I don't want it to be that, because then I have to take kind of a different ethical stance against the film, and so that's why I think I'm probably grasping at any piece of evidence I can find that this movie was constructed in a way that kept everybody's safety in mind at every stage of the way.
I mean, I guess it's good that they had the same stunt performers and it was filmed in, the States. So I don't know if it was union or not, but they definitely had a production company. They definitely had people to answer to. And I mean, 4.5 million, I guess if you inflate, that's about $10 million today, or $9 million. So they had some money plus some pros. So I know they were working around the clock, but they like the dirt bike riders that they brought in. They auditioned like the best in the world to come in and do it. Like
Hmm.
they really did, and they did build some sets, which got sold to Babylon 5, which is kind of funny. But they did build some sets specifically for like the dirt bikes and those things. So I think there was a plan, and they didn't speak of any injuries. I mean, they probably wouldn't admit it, but I don't think anybody. Well, no, Mark got cut above the eye. Did you know that? Like, so when they go into the
No.
cheeseburger house, you can't see his other eye because he had stitches. So he did take an injury during one of the fights. So he did have stitches above his eye, and he had to hide it. That's why if you watch that scene again, you're looking at like one eye, not the other. They're purposely blocking it out of the way because he did
Oh,
have
they're filming his good side.
yeah, they're filming his good
No,
side.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, I had a great, yeah. So I'm gonna drop a name, very obnoxiously,
Can I
but
guess it?
I go ahead.
Well, JJ Perry worked on this.
Yeah. I actually, that's not the name I was gonna drop.
Oh
So
no.
JJ, I was talking to him. I said I'd love to get in touch with Mark Dacascos. This was for, well, yeah, this year. Wait, this year? No, last year, 2003, because it was the 25-year anniversary of Drive, and I thought, what a perfect pretense to invite Mark to maybe come in for a Q&A or something. And JJ told me, I said, can you get in touch with him for me? He said, yeah, but he's like, hey brother, he lives in Hawaii. I don't think he can make it out here. I don't have the budget to fly him or anything. So the idea kind of died. But he said, well, what film are you going to show? And I said, Drive. And he said, I'm in Drive. I did the kicks. I did the kicks at the end.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Nice.
which yeah, the thing is, those kicks are so they stand alone, so they're just incredible that when I say the kicks, you know exactly what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
I presume, right? Because I
Yeah,
knew
the
exactly
kicks.
what he was referring to. Yeah, the kicks. During the final fight. That's
Yeah.
JJ.
Wow. He's been around forever. He was in Mortal Kombat too. He worked on Mortal Kombat as well.
He's in the second Mortal Kombat,
Oh,
I think.
second. Oh, okay.
He doubles for Scorpion in Annihilation.
Got it.
I think I could have that wrong. If I do, sorry, JJ. But no, the name I was gonna drop rather shamelessly is that I had the good fortune of interviewing Chad Stahelski.
Oh,
Yeah, and he
nice.
had this, yeah, and of course I had this personal history being a fan of Brandon Lee, and he doubled for Brandon after he passed away. He did all the reshoots. And so I got to ask him a little bit about that in the context of sort of thinking about weapon safety on film sets and things like that. And he had a great line that's always stuck with me, which is if you're a stunt performer, you're going to get hurt. You're going to get bruised, you're going to get scratched up. The point is not to avoid getting hurt. The point is to avoid getting injured is the
Mm.
line he gave me, right? And so, it's a hazard of the trade. You're gonna get bruised and scraped and everything, but you have to really oblige yourself to, if you're in a coordinator position, to know what's going to work and what isn't, and if you're a performer, to know when to say no. I think I can't do that. That's a little too scary, or that's a little too risky, beyond just sort of, okay, I'll do it if you bump my pay, because they do that. They give you bonuses for particular gags, like, okay,
Yeah, get lit on fire. You'll get paid
I'll
more.
I'll get lit on fire. I'll bounce off the hood of that speeding car, sure, but there is added risk, and so I want added pay, and so that's fine. You compensate people, but I think it's also important to know when to say, okay, this doesn't meet my minimum safety requirement. It could be fine. In fact, I'm sure it is, but the added risk, I think, is in excess of what's reasonable to ask somebody of, or to ask yourself to do. And I think that's the job of a coordinator, right? You got to know.
Mm-hmm.
JJ talks all the time about how Keanu really wants to do it. He really wants to get in there and do as much as he can without relying on stunt performers, because that's the Wick brand, and Keanu really enjoys doing it. But JJ tells you, yeah, every now and then Keanu will do something, he'll perform an action 5 or 6 or 7 times, and it's his job to say, hey, sorry buddy, you're starting to get tired. And the more tired you get, the more likely you are to make mistakes. And the more mistakes you make, the more dangerous this becomes. So, and he fights with them. He said, no, let me do it. I can do it. It's like, no, buddy, I'm calling it. I'm swapping you out.
I did read that when they wouldn't let him do things, sometimes he would not be happy about it. But I mean, you got to, but he also respects stuntmen. So he's probably not happy, but he gets it, I hope. So,
I hope. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
he speaks really highly of the team.
And they always
Um,
get like Rolexes.
yeah.
Yeah. But I love this movie. And thank you so much for coming to talk. Any other thoughts about this film? Like, what is anything we haven't covered that you still want to talk about?
Oh, well, the Apollo set is
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
it's gorgeous
Yeah.
and ostentatious. Yeah.
For
We didn't talk
cheap,
about this.
for
Yeah.
cheap, I love.
Well, there's a line that says, now this is what makes America great. That's that, huh? You should show this to Donald Trump. I mean, like when the Juno reactor techno song kicks in, it's proof positive of what I always say, which is I do think the 90s were the best decade for movie soundtracks. Yeah,
Hands down.
yeah. I'll fight anybody who says
Yeah.
different. Yeah.
Give me the Godzilla soundtrack. I don't care.
Well,
Batman
just
Forever, The Crow.
yeah, well, so post Crow, this kind of emphasis on alternative rock and different sounds, as opposed to, like Flashdance or something. Just get that radio hit and slap it on there, and we'll have the one pop song associated with the film. That's a very pre-90s thing. Once you're in the 90s and you get these industrial rock and trip hop and techno and all these really great integration, and some of it's
Judgment Night. Remember
contrived.
that?
Judgment Night is so good. Yeah. Even like the Lost Highway soundtrack, David Lynch curated stuff. It's all great. Although and I guess this ties this together because it's the same scene. But when Mark Dacascos is singing,
Oh yeah.
it's well, maybe you know the story behind this
Yeah.
because I don't know. It's obviously ADR, but it actually does sound like Mark Dacascos.
It was supposed to be a couple lines. But then he practiced the entire song and they're like, okay, go do it. So
Well,
they
it's
weren't.
a shame that the song isn't available anywhere because it's a long song. It's got
Yeah.
verses.
Yeah, but he practiced it. They had it like performed, and they were just expecting a couple lines, then cut away. But then Steve just thought it was funny, so they gave him the entire scene to do it, which doesn't really make sense for the movie, but it's just so cheeky and comes out of nowhere that I love it. But yeah, that was just Steve going, all right, let's shoot it all.
It's
Because
good. He's hitting
yeah,
the high notes. Yeah,
yeah,
it's it's a nice performance. It's like, yeah, this is the charm offensive right now. It's like Mark Dacascos is so charming.
yeah,
Um,
and
yeah,
like
just
Kadeem's loving it too. Like his buddies watching him dance and sing, and Malik's like, yeah, this is great. Like
well,
he's
even
having fun with it.
they even catch the corporate guy who comes in. He's got that cheap ass looking tracking device.
Oh, yeah. A
Like
video
even
game.
yeah,
His fun made fun of Steve Wang. He's like, that's a video game. He's like, yeah, I know. We had
that
no
was it.
money.
Is it like
Yeah.
a Game Boy,
Yeah. It
modified
was
Game Boy or something?
something cheap. Yeah. And they're just like, yeah, just,
Yeah.
oh no, it was from Babylon 5. It was from like, I think it was from Star Trek or something like that. But on the wall in the evil layer, that's a video game. But this was like a Star Trek prop. It was a Star
Okay.
Trek tricoder that they used for that. Sorry to interrupt.
Well, even that character, you catch him kind of laughing at Mark performing the song, Toby rather. So I do want to point out this scene or the final boss fight with the advanced model has maybe my favorite absurd detail of the movie, which is I swear to God, at one point during the final fight, the boss he rips off his jacket to show that he's wearing the exact same jacket underneath. Did you catch that?
No, I didn't. I did not catch that. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
When he goes into, I guess what you'd call beast mode, right? Because he gets the boost in his implants and he kind of goes berserk. He rips off his jacket, but the thing he has underneath is the exact same jacket.
Oh, that's amazing. I don't know why
Yeah,
I didn't catch that.
it's such a weird little detail.
And that's the quirk that makes this movie work. And I got to tell you, I do love Super Soldier final fight. So like Universal Soldier has a
Mhm.
great rain fight. Like I love the Dolph JCVD. Say what you want about Soldier, but what Jason Scott Lee and Kurt Russell have a humdinger in the finale of Soldier, another rain fight. This is not a rain fight, but I do love a Super Soldier 1990s final fight.
It's so weird you mentioned Soldier with Kurt Russell because I was thinking that's the movie that precedes this one. If there had been an origin story. So check this out, right? I think there's an interesting sub narrative here about Toby because he's this stone cold soldier warrior. And it's a story about him kind of loosening up and becoming socialized because he's quite awkward and mechanical in the beginning. And he's always like averting people's gazes when he's uncomfortable. Yeah, there's some kind of personality quirk with Toby. He's just a very shy guy who lacks social skills, I think. And so the movie presents itself as just two cool guys with opposing personalities who clash in the beginning, but eventually become buddies. But I think there's a different way to look at this, which is it's about a dehumanized government programmed killer who's learning for the first time to have fun and enjoy life in a way that he's never been able to before. And so if there was a prequel, it would be like a soldier, like a Kurt Russell soldier type character who breaks protocol because he falls in love
Oh
with the
yeah.
girl with the girl in the birthday card. Now we've seen that movie before, but there are hints that he's just always kind of appreciated American movies and he just kind of wants to become American. And so there's this kind of weird American dream element of all the places he could have run to, he comes to America to pursue his dream. And it's kind of an immigrant story in a way.
Yeah. To make his 5 million
To
for the
make his 5 million and then so I don't know how you adjust for what 5 million comes out to now. Those are Clinton dollars, but plus he's giving half of it away.
Mm-hmm. And then they're going to
But
pay for the hotel probably too.
which can't be cheap.
No, can't be cheap.
But yeah, I think there's just this interesting kind of subsumed, is that some word like that, storyline here about Toby kind of pursuing the American dream.
And just
That's
having
different.
fun.
That runs separate from this question of like, is he going to get this turbo drive taken out?
A
Yeah,
sequel would have been
and that
nice.
ties into like the fact that the climax ends with this sort of gigantic ostentatious display of like American greatness and American scientific ingenuity, which is the Apollo program. And this is where he has his final reckoning of like the old world, his old life that's come all the way here to pursue him versus the future ahead. Yeah, there's some thematic resonance there. The fact that he blows it all up and then like goes on to live his life. I don't know.
The
Check it out.
sustainability of that bar is just way too much. That's a gigantic club. Like you need a lot of people to pay for that thing. I don't know what their clientele is there, but
Out in the middle of the desert too. Like who's
yeah.
driving out there to sing karaoke at the like underneath the Apollo rocket? Yeah. The line time to blow,
Oh yeah.
it doesn't really work for me, I gotta say.
Time to
Because
blow.
well, think about Rush Hour, right? What that film gets right is that the buddy dynamic is enhanced by the cultural clash between Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan.
Mm-hmm.
So here, that line would work if Toby, because Toby he's like the super soldier, he's a fierce killer, but when he's got downtime, he's also kind of a dork, right? That's what makes the Mark Dacascos performance kind of fun and charming.
Yeah.
But that line "time to blow" would work if Toby's English isn't great, like with Jackie Chan, and he's like trying out a badass catchphrase, but it comes out all wrong. The problem with that is that Mark Dacascos speaks perfect English, and there's no indication of any point of the film that he gets idioms like that wrong. And so to have it kind of tacked on at the end there, it feels a little false to me.
Maybe if he was trying to be cool, like and then he kind of botches it. So he understands English perfectly and he knows everything, but he's never been cool. Does that make sense? Like
Right,
this is his
right.
first time.
It works if you look at it in that direction, but if you look at it in the sense of like, would he know, or does he honestly not know that time to blow idiomatically doesn't make sense? That's the part that feels suspicious to me. It's like, no, I think you know that phrase doesn't make sense. If you're trying out a catchphrase and it comes off really cringeworthy and silly, that's a little bit different. But I don't think you like mess up the grammar.
So in my notes, I have time to blow in all caps in red, which I highlight important things. And I
Okay.
don't know why, but I wrote LOL and I put haha. So I must have loved that moment. But
It's a funny beat, but I have just that
yeah,
minor criticism of it.
the best line though is kick his ass and take his coat. Like that's the best
That's a
line.
funny line.
Yeah. And then just like when he hits the glasses, the guy like takes his glasses, then he like breaks his glasses. Like that's a really fun
With like
wrinkle in the fight
the
scene.
concussive force
Yeah.
of the broom handle or whatever that is. Yeah,
And
that's
also
fun.
it does take a pretty dark turn though when Malik beats what Vic pistol whips him on the head and he's like, you never like use a whip on a black man. Like that's a pretty violent, and he also murders Hedgehog. It's like that's probably, I mean, there's a lot of violence in this movie, but that's the most like personal, I would say, violence, even though he took out a whip. Like that scene kind of raises it up a little bit. But I mean, that's pretty brutal when he starts pistol whipping him. But I mean,
Yeah,
I
it does fall into the 90s of it all, which is, I feel like we're in an era right now when on-screen violence, which is to say the distinction between a PG-13 and an R, is measured by CGI head explosions. Back then, it was measured by the number of squibs you put on someone's chest, right? And so this is where the movie earns its R rating because people are getting shot. And you're right, the violence gets quite intimate. But when he brings out a whip and starts calling him boy, it's not that it made me uncomfortable, but it did make me think, how were you guys aware of the racial connotations of what you were doing here? Because if so, why did you decide to lean into that? Because it isn't funny. It's not
mhm.
quirky. It's just kind of adds this sort of sheen of ugliness into an otherwise kind of a peppy, fun action movie. It's just what do you guys what is it you guys think you're doing here?
So they hadn't thought about it. They knew that the guy was good with a whip, and then they're like, okay, he'll use a whip. And then Kadeem was like, guys, like he's like, are you just like you're just gonna have like a white dude pulling a whip on a black man? He's like, we can't. Like he's like, we got to at least address this in the movie. And he's like, I wasn't angry at you guys. You were just like, hey, he has a whip and he can use a whip because he can use a whip.
Uh,
And like, so I think
so they just kind of
naively,
stumbled into it
yeah,
naively.
I think naively they're like, oh wait, John Piper Ferguson, you can use a whip. Well, that's fun. Like, sure, like let's do that. And then we're like, okay, you're gonna fight Kadeem, and then Kadeem's like, guys, we got to cover this. So I think that's where that comes in. And then they added once he made that note, they added that element of boy in there, which kind of added that kind of violent level to it. So
Okay, and so when Kadeem is yell or when Malik is yelling like, "Don't you ever pull a whip on a black boy, a black guy," I'm guessing they added that line to compensate for it, or at least sort of address that.
exactly.
Yeah, he okay.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
like,
well, I mean that makes sense. It makes me wonder whether or not that's partly cultural, right? Because you have a lot of Asian filmmakers coming over, and they're not quite as keyed into these sort of racial dynamics. I felt the same way about John Woo's Silent Night from was it last year?
oh my gosh,
With Joel
yeah.
Kinnaman. I mean, it's a fun action film, but it's incredibly racist in terms of
Yes.
its sort of presentation of Mexican cartel types. And I was thinking like, yeah, this leaves a really ugly taste, and I think the film deserves to be discredited for including that. But then I thought, no, you know what? John Woo, I don't know how plugged into American racial politics John Woo is, so it's the screenwriter to blame, I think, if anything
Yeah.
else. But
That's
yeah,
a great concept for a movie, by the way, where he just loses all humanity. Like there's nothing. He's not an avenging angel in that movie. He's not a righteous avenger. He's just gone insane, and his revenge is ugly. So like the idea was there, but I don't know if like I think as an action film it works, but I do like the idea in that movie of just it's ugly. That's a really ugly
yeah,
movie,
yeah,
and
conceptually and tonally, and in terms of its sort of action design, there's a lot to praise about that film. It's just
but the
it's
cultural,
trying to, yeah, it's trying to pass off as a fun, albeit brutal, action film, and sort of sidestepping the question of it's still nonetheless about a white guy who's performing righteous vengeance on all these Mexicans who have come into our country and are committing violence. And it's like, yeah, this is the politics of our moment. Really need to We need to put a pause on things like this, or at least accompany them with conversation, because there's something really gross and right wing and nativistic about the story you're telling, and I wouldn't oblige John Woo to necessarily be conscious of these things, but the American team and American screenwriter who put that movie into effect, I'd be like, yeah, you guys, I don't think you guys are handling this very responsibly.
yeah, no, and no one. But I guess that's good that Kadeem spoke up. He's like,
Yeah,
guys, come
absolutely.
on. So no one really did that on Silent Night, but on this one, yeah. But that's the one. Like, it's a really kind of like mean, not mean, but you're right. This is a very peppy action film, and so that beat was added. But I think it just happened on set. They're like, okay, well, we can't have this. If he's going to use a whip on me, I'm going to say something about it because you already had that cop scene. So like, Kadeem was saying when they get pulled over by the cop, he's like, I've been in this situation before. So you
Yeah,
know, I think he wanted that element added, and then that's why we had it because they wanted to at least address the whip in there. So it's
got it, got
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Thanks for the note.
The commentary was great, and I just ate it
I'll
up.
go check it out. Yeah, I
Yeah,
have the same Blu-ray that you do. I just I couldn't find the time other than to rewatch it, which was delightful. But yeah, I saw that it had deleted scenes on there, and I'm eager to gobble it all up.
the nice thing about commentary is you could work out or you could work on other things, and then you just catch like fun
Sure,
tidbits while you're listening. So like that's what I've learned. I never just sit down and watch it just that, but if I'm doing something, I can always like I hear
of
something neat,
course.
and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna write the note down. So I've learned how to like maximize, and I like that digital copies are starting to add commentaries now. So on my hour and a half drive to work, I can just put my phone to the side. I don't watch it. I just listen
Oh,
to
that's
it.
cool. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so I just listen to it and grab
So
research.
yeah, can I ask? I know we're wrapping up, but and I don't mean to delay
Yeah. Yeah.
our egress, but did you learn any fun tidbits about the Hong Kong scenes? Because the Hong Kong scenes are really funny to me. They're kind of a weird throwback to a sort of William Gibson, Johnny Mnemonic style cyberpunk Asia that looks and feels completely displaced from the movie we're watching, both tonally and more in terms of the art direction, the set design and decor of the Hong Kong scenes are really quite unique.
Are you talking about like the lab and when he lifts the thing up at the end? Like that's all CG.
Yeah,
But no,
with
they
all
didn't.
the other soldiers that are cooking in their chambers.
All the other soldiers who are cooking in
Well,
their
so at the
chamber.
end, I know the CGI shot you're talking about. There's this sort of window that lifts up, and he's looking,
Yeah.
and it's a row of pods with other super soldiers who are
Yeah.
just sort of,
Oh,
marinating.
cooking. Yeah. Yeah. When you said cooking, I'm like, is there a kitchen scene? Like, did I miss like
No, no, you
people?
love a kitchen scene, but
was like, people are cooking in like a scene. Did I miss this?
Cooking, brewing, toasting, whatever.
Got it. They're growing, I guess. Yeah, yeah. There wasn't too many comments. That was just like VFX. So they had a green screen there, and then the thing he uses is an actual video game console to do that. They were just making fun of the cheapness of the set. So that's kind of what that was.
I mean, the advanced model has an amazing coin trick that he like.
Oh, that was a magician who got brought in to do that.
Oh, you mean like the way when David Bowie's juggling the crystals in Labyrinth, like that's not his hand. It's a close up of him, but the hand is coming from above, from below screen, and it's like some specialist who's doing it, and they produce the illusion that Bowie's doing it himself. I assume it's something similar, right? There's somebody
magician
crouching right below. Yeah. Well, the thing that bothers me about that is that's a skill set that we never see happen again. It never figures into anything. Like you can hurl a coin through someone's skull and have it lodge into the wall behind him. Like that, you could probably incorporate that into your fight.
That's a great trick too. And I do miss in 90s movies, like in The Punisher, the lady takes off her earrings and throws them into both guys' hands. This one, there's a coin that goes through a throat. Like I do miss the trope of like henchmen who have a small weapon that can do some pretty great stuff. I don't think we've had that recently. But yeah, they brought it. Sorry to interrupt. I just got excited because I remember they brought in a magician.
I mean, there's the pencil trick in John Wick 2.
Oh yeah,
a few things like that. But yeah, there are people who do that kind of let's choreograph something around something improbable, like it just something laying around, as opposed to a knife or a gun or an axe or a hatchet. Like a pencil or a coin. No, I really wanted to just bring up the Hong Kong thing briefly because James Shigeta, the CEO or something, who's just scowling in Hong Kong the whole time. It's like,
Die Hard.
You have disappointed me again. You know, it is a shame. So it's a shame that people know him primarily from Die Hard because he's actually one of the greatest Japanese American actors of all time. Yeah, your listeners should check out a really influential film called The Crimson Kimono. Yeah, I think it's 1959. It's I'm partial to it because one of my favorite directors, one of my favorite American directors, certainly is Sam Fuller. And it's a Sam Fuller film. It's about a murder in Little Tokyo in LA, and James Shigeta plays a detective, and he has a white partner, and they get into a love triangle with a woman who is, I guess, like a witness in the investigation.
Wow,
it's it's really good. Yeah, he had this incredible career, especially back in, we're talking about the 50s and 60s, in which Asian American representation was really lacking, and he was, one of these people who, apart from the Bruce Lee types who were doing sort of kung fu martial arts movies, he was doing dramas and things like that. He's really one of the great people in that community.
Well, this has been added to my list. Heck yeah.
Yeah. And they give him the big Gary Oldman moment, right? Which is everyone.
And the grenades at the end is walking with the grenades towards them. That's a nice professional thing as well.
Oh, yeah, you think? Maybe.
Yeah, because he remember like when, well, I guess Jean Reno has the grenades, but they still blow up with grenades.
Well, because he's got the dead man switch, 2 of them, right? Which is, it's not if you press the button, the grenades explode. It's if you let go of the button, they explode, right? Which is why they have to very carefully grab it and keep your finger on the button. And we've seen that in a few movies, but I associate the dead man switch more with like Speed.
Oh, yeah. He's shorter. Isn't that the final line from Speed?
Wait. Well, he says, "I'm smarter than you, Jack." And he says, "Yeah, well, I'm taller."
What a terrible
after he's decapitated. Yeah.
I always forget about the train scene in Speed. Like, I don't know why, but I have to be reminded of that scene in there. But yeah, no, like everyone loves that Oldman perform. Like The Professional, I watched that when I was 12, and that one hit me like a truck. And I never really thought about the bluntness of a 12-year-old Natalie Portman being in that role, and also Beautiful Girls, because I was her age. I was like, she's great. But yeah, that role by Oldman is just perfection. Yeah, and I love that line that he gets in there.
Everyone.
Love it. Well,
so do we know is that a deliberate homage to Gary Oldman?
Yeah, because everyone, yeah. Oh, he loves it. In the commentary, he said
because that's 94, so it tracks. It would have been in recent memory when they made this one. Yeah,
he loves it, and so he said, yeah, we added it in. Like, it's a very blatant one, but it's perfect. So
I do have to know how you feel about, because I didn't realize you're just now watching Guyver and Guyver Dark Hero for the first time.
Oh, they're great. They're scrappy. They're funny. Yeah. They kind of look like they were filmed on wax paper, but they had no budget. Yeah. I love, like, listen, I love monsters. Like, my favorite genre of film is creature features. Like, I think growing up, Return of the Jedi just pretty much made me obsessed with monsters, like the Rancor and the Sarlacc and all that. And so watching these fight scenes, I had a black and white TV in elementary school, and I would watch Power Rangers. So I do love me some Power Rangers, and the same crew kind of worked on it. But yeah, no, that they're so tonally different. The budget was dropped a lot for the second one, but I like that one more. And also, what I think most importantly, the second one, it shows a lot of the personality that would be used in Drive later on. So I dug it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting because you can kind of see the progression of Steve Wang's know-how a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, the first Guyver the creature effects are very post Ninja Turtles in terms of the kind of the rubber suits people are wearing. And so it ends up being kind of campy and fun. I would argue that it's a little too jokey at times, but Dark Hero is really legit as an action film.
Yeah.
I don't know the full story, but it's pretty clear that, and like you say, because if they had a smaller budget, that gave Wang, I think, more permission and leeway to one, be more violent. Right. It's a lot more violent. It has better actors, I think, and it puts a lot more of its resources. It directs the resources more from the creature effects to just the stunt work. And it also, Dark Hero also gives us the famous Guyver kick. I don't know if you know that move, but it's it's a kick that involves you're leaping in the air with both legs. You let one leg sort of pass over, and then the next leg misses the target, but then whips back and hits them in the opposite direction. I mean, this is a terrible thing to describe on.
Is that what Scott Adkins started doing later on?
Right. Yeah. So it's called the Guyver kick, but Scott Adkins kind of made it more famous in Undisputed, and so it's called the Boyka kick.
Undisputed 2 or 3?
Good question.
I guess that's not important. But I love the cave
so
sets.
He does it.
Yeah,
he does it. He does the Boyka kick / Guyver kick in Killer's Game, which just came out a couple months ago. And so I did text JJ. I was like, "You tried to slip a Guyver kick in there without me, and thought I wouldn't notice."
I just typed it in, Scott Adkins Guyver kick. So I love that they're still kind of calling it Guyver kicks in here.
It's a completely impractical way to fight because it doesn't. You're kind of whipping your leg back in a way that doesn't produce any real momentum. So it's not something anybody would ever pull off in a real fight. But it looks cool.
If I was a bouncer and someone tried that on me, I'd be pretty amazed. It's too packed in a bar to do that anyway.
Yeah, be like, all right, come on in. You've earned it. You know what? You're cool.
It's just the cave sets. I did some research on the Guyvers. Like, it was really hot on the second one, so everyone was just sweating. But yeah, they have more freedom. They put a decent amount of money into the monsters, and like, once again, the character, Screaming Mad George helped with the first one.
Yeah.
And then the second one was Wang, but you could feel the personality. And also he said that he never wants to make like an English Patient or any, like, for lack of a better movie. He just wants to make Guyver. Like, he just wants to have fun. So I dig it.
Yeah, it's a little surprising to me that no one has attempted a Guyver feature since then. It would seem like anime has blown up in America, so I think there would be a market for it. Maybe the Guyver anime is a bit cult, but I think there'd be an audience for it, and it's a reliable IP. It's very kind of special effects driven, and it's a guy in a suit of armor who fights monsters using martial arts and a giant chest cannon, whatever you call it. Yeah, I think someone somewhere is working on it. I'm sure it's in some development phase somewhere, just because it seems such an obvious film.
What about Pacific Rim? Smaller monsters attack. Pacific Rim 3, smaller monsters attack, and then Guyver suits are used to battle.
Yeah.
Them. There we go.
Yeah, Guyver is just basically
one Guyver.
Well, Guyver is so Iron Man adjacent.
Yeah.
Right? In like mech suits. And it strikes me as odd that it has all the ingredients that I think would at least give suggest a blockbuster film of some sort. When Black Panther suits up, to me that visually doesn't look any different than like when Guyver would suit up, right? So it's odd to me that no one is, from all I know, people aren't really working on a Guyver adaptation, but maybe someone is.
Get Timo on it.
Get Timo on everything.
He was going to do a Train to Busan remake, and I'm like, I don't think we need a Train to Busan remake.
No, that's not necessary.
No,
just re-release the first one.
Exactly. But hey, this was awesome, and thank you so much for joining me. Look forward to having you back. If you want to come back, we can talk more action. I absolutely loved this episode.
Anytime. I sent you an initial list with a few titles, so I'm down to do any of those. Or, if you come up with something else or something contemporary that just comes down the pipe, then like anytime I'll pop on. And this is a lot of fun. And
Oh no, we can make our way through that list. You sent me a great list.
well,
So
I don't know if you've covered my beloved rapid fire. I'm
let's
down
do
for
it.
it, but
Yeah.
also, yeah, anytime. Hit me up and I'll be there.
I love it.
And thank you for so graciously hosting me.
I'm honored. This is a very fun episode. I like I said, I always step up my game. I do a lot of research. I gotta show up for Professor Mike
Uh,
Dillon. So
oh yeah, I know I rock your uvula.
all right. Well, hey, so thank you for joining me. All right. So for me, Mark Hoffmeyer and Professor Mike Dillon, this is the Movie Sons and Flicks. We'll see you next week.